The glow of his online status flickers across the screen, taunting you like a distant lantern in a cold night. He is there, present, active, yet not for you. Your message sits unanswered, not because he didn't see it, but because he chose not to respond. And in that moment you feel something ancient awaken, not tears, not panic, something quieter. He would call it indifference, but it is not indifference. It is pressure. It is stillness. It is the beginning of silent rage. Have you ever felt that burning weight inside your chest, not loud enough to scream, but too powerful to ignore? Not the kind of rage that throws things or begs for attention, but the kind that turns you into stone. Marble. Cold, carved, untouchable. That is the rage of the submissive Persephone, the one who waits underground, pretending to be asleep, when in truth she is gathering power beneath the soil. You used to believe silence was weakness, that your worth depended on response times, emojis, or the frequency of good morning texts. You used to rush to explain when someone pulled away, offering softness like tribute, hoping empathy would melt indifference. But silence, true, unshakable silence, is not surrender. It is a weapon. It is the temple in which desire is forced to kneel. Because men like him, the charming predator, are not drawn to easy access. They are drawn to locked doors, restriction, mystery. The predator is not obsessed with the prey that runs into his jaws. He becomes obsessed when the prey disappears into the shadows, leaving him pacing at the entrance, wondering where she went, what she's thinking, who she's allowing near her now. Silence turns his confidence into paranoia, his dominance into doubt, his ego into hunger. Pause and reflect. When was the last time your silence made someone chase you, not because you were playing a game, but because you genuinely detached? There is a difference between strategic withholding and energy withdrawal. One is performance, the other is transformation. In psychology, this moment is known as the power of reverse projection. When you stop projecting longing onto him, he is forced to confront the void in its absence. That void becomes a mirror and he finally sees himself. Not your devotion, not your softness, himself. Unreflected, unrewarded, unreceived. Imagine him at night. The same man who once kept you waiting now checks his phone twice before bed. He scrolls past stories, searching for your face. He hovers over your chat, tempted to send something casual, something disarming. Hey, you up? Pathetic in its simplicity, but he hesitates, because now he is unsure. Has she moved on? Did someone else enter the temple where I was once worshipped? Did my absence crown another king? Your silence builds his obsession, brick by brick, doubt by doubt. But let's descend deeper, beneath the surface of chat bubbles and notifications. This is not about texting. This is about archetypal polarity, about Persephone and Hades but reimagined. The old myth paints Persephone as the stolen maiden, dragged into darkness, but imagine a different version. Imagine she stayed silent not because she was powerless, but because she refused to perform emotional labor. She did not beg to return. She did not plead for affection. She simply became still, and in that stillness she became queen. That is the true nature of the high priestess, the final form of Persephone. Not loud, not reactive, not explosive. Instead, unreadable, sacred, withholding not from fear, but from selection. Silence is not the absence of communication. It is the sharpest form of communication, louder than confrontation, colder than rejection, more powerful than persuasion. Words can be dismissed, silence cannot. Words can be debated, silence is undeniable. Words ask, silence declares, I no longer seek, I no longer chase, I no longer beg to be seen. Consider this: when a woman explodes in anger, he feels validated. See, she cares, she's affected. When she pleads, he feels powerful, she still wants me. When she explains, he relaxes, she's giving me time. But when she withdraws without announcement, no drama, no tantrum, no explanation, his reality fractures. There is no narrative to cling to, no closure, no certainty, only silence. That is when Aphrodite enters, not as softness but as temptation. Because silence does not mean you vanish. No, you redirect, you glow elsewhere. You become visible in selective places to selective eyes. You do not pose to be seen by him. You exist expansively, and if his eyes find you, let them burn. Pause, breathe, ask yourself, are you truly silent or are you secretly waiting for him to notice? Because real silence is not the absence of sound, it is the absence of expectation. And that, more than anything, is what terrifies the charming predator. Silence without expectation is the rarest alchemy. Most people go quiet as a tactic, counting seconds, rehearsing reactions, waiting for the notification like a W. Worshipper waiting for a sign from the heavens. But this is not that kind of silence. This is not a strategy. This is becoming unreachable, not blocked, not erased, simply elevated beyond his access. Picture it clearly. He sends a message not because you demanded it, but because the growing echo of your absence began to gnaw at him. He expects relief. He expects warmth. He expects softness waiting to receive him like always. Instead, he finds distance, a delay, a pause, a response stripped of emotional cushioning, measured, controlled, cool, no exclamation points, no emojis, no eagerness, just presence without offering, availability without devotion. And in that moment, something inside him trembles, not in heartbreak but in confusion. He is no longer sure of his place in your world. He is no longer sure that he is wanted. And that uncertainty is agonizing to someone who once fed on validation like oxygen. This is the paradox of male desire. Men do not crave the woman who gives them peace. They crave the woman who makes them restless. Peace is comforting, but restlessness is addictive. Peace puts them to sleep. Restlessness keeps them awake at night. And you, once the gentle provider of emotional lullabies, are now the disturbance in his system. You have become the unanswered question, the unclaimed territory, the unopened door. But understand this is not about playing hard to get. It is about becoming hard to reach, not through games but through growth. You no longer respond within seconds because your world is full. You no longer wait for his calls because your attention has been rerouted to higher pursuits. Your silence is not emptiness, it is occupation. Consider a real-world contrast. Example 1. Reactive silence, weak form. A woman gets ignored. She panics. She decides not to message first. But every minute she checks her screen. She drafts texts and deletes them. She rehearses confrontations in her mind. She posts something online not to express herself but to trigger him. Her silence is desperate. It vibrates with longing. He can feel it. And because he feels her still chasing him beneath the stillness, he stays comfortable, unthreatened. Example 2. Sovereign silence, high priestess form. Another woman is ignored. She notices. She acknowledges the sting. But instead of spiraling, she reorients. She reorganizes her schedule. She books a class. She goes somewhere new. She speaks less, not because she is sulking, but because she is processing. She is not silent toward him. She is silent toward everything unnecessary. Her silence is not desperation, it is selection. He feels the absence differently. It is not longing, it is loss. Which one are you? Pause and ask yourself, not as a strategy but as a self-revelation. If he never returned, would your silence remain sacred or would it collapse into noise? Because true power is not in whether he comes back. True power is whether his return changes anything meaningful in you. Now enter his mind. Yes, silence shifts the stage, but let's step into his private theater for a moment. Imagine him lying in bed, the room dim, the ceiling blank, the echo of silence louder than any argument. His thoughts start slow, then sharpen. She hasn't texted. Did she give up? No, she's probably waiting for me. She always waits. Pause, doubt. Unless she's not. Unless someone else is speaking to her now. Someone better, someone funnier, someone who doesn't hesitate. His breath changes, his chest tightens. What if I was her option, not her destiny? What if she was never mine to begin with? Notice this is not love. This is possession unraveling. This is ego cracking beneath uncertainty. And contrary to what you've been told, uncertainty is not cruelty. It is balance. Because women have drowned in uncertainty for centuries, wondering, waiting, unraveling. Let him drown for once. Let him feel the weight of unanswered hope. Because silence, when owned fully, is not passive. It is commanding, not loud, not aggressive, but unstoppable. This is where Aphrodite as temptation enters, not as a lover crawling back, but as an apparition of possibility. Your silence is not meant to turn you invisible. It is meant to make you glow elsewhere. A new dress, a changed hairstyle, a softer laugh in a different room. You do not announce transformation, you embody it. Transformation is not posted, it is witnessed. And that is when silence shifts from punishment to priestesshood. You are no longer waiting in the underworld. You are building a temple within it. He may knock, he may plead, he may posture, but a temple does not open its doors for noise. It opens only for offerings. You are no longer seeking devotion. You are deciding who is worthy to approach your altar. Now answer this quietly within yourself. When he returns, will you greet him as the maiden who once bowed, or as the priestess who now chooses? Silence is no longer a shield, it becomes architecture. Every moment you resist the urge to explain, to clarify, to soothe his ego, you are laying another stone in the temple of your sovereignty. You are not withholding affection, you are raising standards. You are not avoiding conversation, you are demanding language worthy of your attention. But let's widen the lens. This dynamic, the dance between your silence and his rising hunger, is not just about love or rejection. It is about energy equilibrium. In every connection, someone pours and someone drinks. Someone reaches and someone receives. For too long, you have been the pouring cup, overflowing with validation, concern, reassurance. Now you become the chalice at rest, untouched unless lifted with reverence. This is not cruelty. This is cosmic balance. Even the sun withdraws at sunset, not because it is angry, but because the world must learn to survive in darkness. Your withdrawal is not punishment, it is recalibration. Let's analyze this through Jungian insight. Silence is the language of the shadow, the hidden part of you that refuses to be endlessly available. Your shadow is not evil, it is instinct. It is self-preservation. When you silence your voice but not your worth, you allow the shadow to rise as protector. Most women are taught to fear that shadow. They believe anger makes them undesirable. They believe detachment makes them cold. They believe mystery makes them manipulative. But these beliefs were not planted in your mind to keep you virtuous. They were planted to keep you accessible. Ask yourself, who taught you that silence was dangerous? Who convinced you that being unreadable was unkind? Who benefits when you are predictable? Because only predictable women can be controlled. Only eager women can be delayed. Only desperate women can be played with. But an unknowable woman, a woman who smiles with no promise, a woman whose silence is not desperate but divine. She is not an option, she is a pilgrimage. This is where he begins to feel the shift, not as loss of attention, but as loss of entitlement. He no longer assumes access to you. He no longer presumes you will soften. And this destabilizes him more than any angry confrontation ever could. Picture him now, not as a villain, but as a man encountering his own unfamiliar emotions. His heartbeat quickens, not from fear of losing you specifically, but from fear of losing power over you. There is a difference. Listen closely. Perspective shift, his inner voice, 200, 300 words. Why isn't she replying? She always replies. Maybe she's busy. No, she would tell me, unless she's trying to get a reaction. But she doesn't play games, she's never been like that. She's honest. She's soft. Wait, has she changed? She seemed different last time we spoke. Sharper somehow, colder? No, not cold, just closed, like she was holding something back from me. When did that start? Did I push her too far? No, she wouldn't walk away, she likes me too much. Right, she does, she must. Unless, God, did she find someone else? No, she wouldn't move that fast, she's not like other girls. But what if she finally realized she could? What if she finally saw that I never gave her enough? What if she finally stopped hoping? Should I text her? No, that makes me look weak. But what if she thinks I don't care? I do care. I care that she knows. Stop. I'm not chasing her. She should chase me. But what if she never does again? And there it is, the collapse of pride beneath uncertainty. The predator becomes restless, not because you attacked, but because you evaporated. Let that image burn into your memory. His desire pacing like a caged beast, while you sit in silent stillness, untouched. This is not the end of the story. This is the threshold, the moment where Persephone stops being prey and becomes priestess. But understand, this transformation is not complete until silence turns into standard. Silence as reaction is temporary. Silence as identity is evolution. So now ask yourself once more, and let the question settle deep. Is your silence a waiting room, or is it a throne? A throne is not loud. It does not signal. It does not plead. It does not chase. It simply exists, elevated, immovable, effortlessly commanding reverence. And now your silence must rise from mere absence into presence, not the presence that begs to be seen, but the presence that is felt even when unseen. This is where most women falter. They treat silence as a placeholder, not a proclamation. They retreat, but only temporarily. They wait, but only for validation. They rebuild, but only to become desirable again. That is not transformation. That is delayed desperation. True transformation happens when you no longer want to be chosen, only recognized by the worthy. When silence is no longer a tactic, but a filter. When you stop listening for footsteps and start listening for echoes within your own chamber. Let's enter another example, one carved not from fantasy, but from patterns seen across countless WAM. And who finally ascended. Example 3. The woman who became untouchable without becoming unloving. She loved deeply, gave fully, and was met with inconsistency. One day, instead of announcing her exit or performing heartbreak, she simply recalibrated her responses. She answered when she had time, not when anxiety demanded. She spoke with grace, but never with desperation. She smiled, but never leaned forward. She became soft, but unavailable. Men didn't stop approaching her. They approached differently, more cautiously, more respectfully. And those who didn't adjust dissolved. She didn't block. She didn't rage. She ceased to reward access without offering. In 6 months, her dating life didn't shrink, it elevated. Notice she did not lose her warmth. She lost her willingness to be accessed freely. That is the essence of the high priestess. Not cold, not cruel, simply private in her sanctity. Now feel this viscerally. Your silence is not empty air. It is velvet rope. It does not say go away. It says approach with intention. It does not say I don't care. It says I care so much that I will not waste this care on the unready. It does not say I'm done. It says if you seek entrance, bring offering. And he will feel this deep in his instincts. Men understand hierarchy more than they understand feelings. They respond to gates, not explanations. You have spent years explaining how you want to be treated. Now you simply enforce it by not reacting to anything less. Pause, reflect, answer silently. Do you want him to want you or to respect you? Because wanting is common, respect is rare. Wanting is primal, respect is sacred. You cannot earn respect through volume. Respect is born in measured quiet. This is where your silence shifts modality, from auditory absence to visual presence. You become seen differently. Your stillness becomes a visual imprint. Eyes turn when you enter, not because you demand attention, but because you command energy. Imagine this scene. A crowded room. Laughter, chatter, sparkling noise. He spots you, but you are not scanning, you are not searching, you are seated. Calm, poised, engaged in conversation without performing. Your hands move slowly, your gaze lands deliberately. You laugh once, not loudly, not for spectacle, but like a soft bell. You are there, but not available. You radiate invitation without offer. He watches. He remembers when you would have already walked toward him. He wonders why you no longer do. And that is the moment he realizes he is no longer your gravity. Because silence is not merely sound withheld, it is orbit broken. You step out of his pull and let him spiral in uncertainty. Whether he crashes or rises toward you is no longer your concern. Your concern is stability of throne, consistency of temple, integrity of self. You have now entered Arc 4, the rise. But this rise is not fueled by vengeance or retaliation. It is fueled by redefinition. You are not trying to make him suffer. You are making yourself sacred. And now, finally, we must circle back. Back to that first moment, the glow of his phone, the unanswered message, the silence that once burned like rejection. Look at it again, not as abandonment, but as awakening. That silence did not mean you were unworthy. It meant he was unready. It did not mean you were forgotten. It meant you were being redirected inward. And now that silence, once a wound, has become your armor. But armor alone is not enough. Now comes the act of coronation. Coronation is not declared through speeches. It is not announced with trumpets or public vows. It happens in the quiet. In the moment you refuse to lower your standards, not out of spite, but out of devotion to yourself. It happens when you no longer crave to be chosen, but to be mirrored by someone already sovereign. And so here is your final ascent. The final test is not whether he chases. The final test is not whether he apologizes or confesses or begs. That is merely validation at the surface level. The final test is this question. If he returned now with everything you wanted, would you still want him, or do you now want different? Because transformation does not only elevate your worth, it refines your taste. The men you once agonized over suddenly feel small, not because they shrank, but because you expanded. Their inconsistency no longer looks mysterious, it looks untrained. Their charm no longer looks magnetic, it looks performative. Their ambivalence no longer looks powerful, it looks boring. This is where Persephone, the once silent, submissive maiden, finally steps forward as high priestess, not to confront, not to convert, not to triumph, but simply to stand. Because a priestess does not lower her voice to be understood. She speaks clearly, and those who are ready will hear. Picture the moment. He returns. Whether through text, through chance encounter, or through intentional pursuit, he comes back, expecting softness, expecting the old rhythm, expecting the doors to swing open. But you do not rush, you do not overflow, you do not accommodate. You feel his presence like a breeze, not a storm. You acknowledge, but you do not surrender. You respond when aligned, not when summoned. You speak in clarity, not performance. You hold his gaze not to seduce, but to evaluate. And if he has not risen, if he still speaks from ego, if his attention seeks to reclaim, not to revere, then silence returns, not as test but as sentence. Because silence is no longer your reaction, it is your law. But if, by some chance, he comes forward not as predator but as pilgrim, if his words are not demands but offerings, if his approach is not possession but prayer, then and only then you offer audience, not promise, not guarantee, simply opportunity. This is the priestess's grace. She is not merciless. She is measured. She is not closed. She is guarded. She is not bitter. She is devotional to herself first. Let this settle like incense. You are not punishing him with silence. You are sanctifying yourself with discretion. Every response you withhold from those who have not earned it becomes a hymn to your self-worth. Every closure you do not beg for becomes a seal on your sovereignty. Every moment you refrain from proving your value becomes proof enough that you know it. Pause, one final reflection. Who are you now, without noise, without chase, without proving? If your answer is still forming, good. That is the space of becoming. That is the space where Persephone walks the boundary, not above, not below, but between worlds. No longer taken, no longer waiting, simply choosing where to bloom. And so your silence transforms one last time from armor to invitation, not to men, not to admirers, but to those capable of speaking at your frequency, those fluent in reverence, those who see not just beauty, but boundary. The temple has been built, the torches are lit, the gates are closed not from fear but from worth. And now the world must learn. To speak to you, one must rise to meet you. There is a sacred difference between being hard to get and being hard to reach. One is a tactic rooted in insecurity, the other is a natural consequence of elevation. You are no longer delaying responses to create tension. You are simply no longer organized around his timeline. You are not ignoring to provoke. You are engaged elsewhere, not in distraction but in expansion. Because this is the final metamorphosis of silence. It is not absence, it is reallocation. Not withholding, redirecting. Your energy is now currency. Your attention is inheritance. Your presence is offering. And from this point forward, not everyone may spend it. Not everyone may receive it. Not everyone may witness it. This is what most people misunderstand about feminine power. They think it's seductive words, witty comebacks, fierce clapbacks. They think it's loud. But the most powerful women in history did not roar. They radiated. Cleopatra did not chase. She appeared. Hera did not argue. She expected. High priestesses did not plead. They allowed access only to the devoted. Understand this, mystery is not about hiding. It is about revealing selectively. Silence becomes not a wall but a curtain. You choose who sees behind it. You decide who earns deeper access. You allow no one to consume you in one sitting. You are layered. You are slow blooming. You are ritual, not transaction. A woman who explains herself too quickly becomes linear, predictable, flat. But a woman who lets herself unfold through stillness, through soft glances, through measured words, she is infinite. Men do not fall in love with what is fully known. They fall in love with what is ever unfolding. And silence, true, sovereign, non-weaponized silence, is the space that allows that unfolding. Let us feel this kinesthetically. Take a breath, feel the weight of your shoulders, feel the rise of your chest, feel the calm in your spine. That calm, that groundedness, that sensation is what he will feel when he is in your presence if you master this silence. He will feel steady and unsteady at the same time, drawn in yet unsure, warmed yet tested, calm yet alert, because your energy becomes both invitation and evaluation. Now picture your next conversation with any man, whether past, present, or future. Not the words, the rhythm. He speaks, you listen. You do not rush to fill the pauses. You do not overlaugh. You do not soften your voice to sound agreeable. You answer what is asked, nothing more. You keep your tone steady. You let silence live between sentences like incense curling between candles. And he subconsciously begins to adjust. His speech slows, his pitch lowers, his posture straightens. He begins to present himself differently, not because you demanded respect, but because you embodied reverence. Silence does not ask, it trains. But now we close the loop. Return for one last time to the first image you staring at. A glowing phone waiting for a message that never came. That moment, that sting, once felt like rejection, but in truth it was a summoning. Silence was not his dismissal, it was your invitation inward, a sacred pause, a threshold. And you crossed it. Tonight there may still be moments when your chest aches, when old patterns whisper, when the urge to reach floods your veins. In those moments, do not suppress. Do not shame yourself. Simply place your palm over your heart and ask, is this longing for him, or is it longing for me to rise? Because most longing is misdirected. It feels like craving someone else, when in truth, it is craving your own ascension. Silence is not the absence of sound. It is the space in which your becoming is heard. And now, the world does not need your noise. It needs your gravity. Let them wonder, let them reach, let them pace outside the temple gates. You are no longer waiting for someone to choose you. You are listening for who is worthy to be called forward. Ascension is rarely loud. Crowning moments are rarely witnessed. You do not become regal when someone places a crown upon your head. You become regal the moment you decide your spirit is no longer available for casual consumption. And that is the quiet pivot of your life now. You are no longer approachable by default. Not because you have built walls, but because you have built thresholds. Thresholds require intention to cross. Thresholds require purification. Thresholds require self-selection. Anyone can access the old you, the constantly available, the instantly responsive, the endlessly understanding. But the woman you are becoming, she is not accessed through convenience. She is summoned through devotion. Let's speak clearly. No more exes reappearing at midnight for emotional comfort. No more half-efforts clothed as confusion. No more maybe we'll see invitations. No more apologies without transformation. No more words without weight. This is not revenge. This is standard. And standards are not rules you shout, they are frequencies you hold. Those aligned will hear it and rise. Those unprepared will feel it and retreat. Either outcome is a blessing. Now here comes the alchemy most women miss. Feminine power is not just who you refuse, it is who you magnetize. Because silence does not only repel the unworthy, it summons the attuned. Have you noticed that lately, strangers look at you differently? Conversations feel slower, deeper. People speak to you more respectfully without knowing why. That is not coincidence. That is signal transmission. Your nervous system has stabilized, and others adjust around it. Your aura, once porous, is now sealed. You are no longer broadcasting need. You are now broadcasting signal. And this signal does not scream, it hums. It is not frantic, it is steady. It does not seek, it draws. It is not intoxicating like fire, it is clarifying like still water. It is not pursuable, it is approachable only through reverence. A man aligned with this frequency does not chase. He steps forward with intention. He does not flood you with words, he brings deeds. He does not try to conquer you, he seeks to be received by you. But understand, not even his arrival is your completion, because queens do not dissolve into unions, they invite alliances. Whether he comes or not, your path is already lit. Your silence has already crowned you. So now, with all layers integrated, let's plant one final decree in your subconscious. My energy is not a performance. My presence is not a reward. My attention is sacred space. Only those who enter with devotion may remain. Repeat it until it becomes breath. Write it where your eyes land each morning. Let every interaction be filtered through it. If you ever doubt, return to stillness. Return to silence. Not as retreat, but as reset. In silence, you remember. In silence, you realign. In silence, you become untouchable yet touchable, but only by the chosen. Let them wonder what changed. Let them ask why you feel different. Let them sense the distance without knowing why. You do not owe them explanation. You owe yourself continuation. Your reign has begun, quietly, divinely, irrevocably. No announcement. No applause. Just atmosphere. And from this moment forward, may every step you take feel like entering a cathedral. Even when it's just a grocery store.